On October 31st, 2023, a jury in Kansas City, Missouri found the National Association of Realtors, or NAR, liable for violating antitrust laws in a class action lawsuit. The jury also found that NAR and other corporate defendants, quote, conspired to fix real estate commission rates. Well, jump on the bandwagon because the Wall Street Journal and other media giants are claiming that NAR, and of course by extension all realtors for that matter, are a cartel that seeks primarily to enrich its members by expanding government control over middle-class America's largest source of wealth, their homes. Well, folks, in this episode, we are going to debunk the myths, we're going to correct the media spin, and we're going to clear up common misconceptions about realtors and their commissions. Lex, take it away. On October 31st, 2023, a jury in Kansas City did find the National Association of Realtors liable for violating antitrust laws. That particular lawsuit only took 2 weeks to litigate. The jury also found that NAR and their defendants, quote, conspired to fix real estate commission rates. Now, that's a big claim that the plaintiffs have. They claim that the commissions are too high, that buyer brokers are being paid too much, and that NAR rules and corporate defendants, the practices that operate this business, well, it's led to, quote unquote, setting prices. Now, while the verdict found NAR and other brokerages, specifically Home Services of America and Keller Williams Realty, liable for $1.8 billion in damages, they were awarded $1.78 billion in damages after a full 2-week trial. These initial plaintiffs that were in this case, this included Joshua Seitzer and Amy Winger. They listed their home on the MLS and offered a buyer agent commission that was bigger than what they had paid their own agent. Now, the media is jumping on all this because, according to Wall Street Journal, NAR and all of the realtors are considered to be a cartel that is price fixing many of America's wealth, which in this case, many Americans acquire their wealth through the growth of equity in their home. Now, add to that, because the size of Wall Street Journal and its language that it's using, well, other media outlets are also using similar language to really fuel the anger receptors in the industry and in this profession. Really, it's an increasingly polarized world, so it's truly imperative that you get the right information. So, let's get started. Number one, what is NAR and who are realtors? Let's start from the top. NAR, the National Association of Realtors, this is a professional organization that has about over 1.5 million members nationwide. Now, this is the largest trade association in the United States, and it's made up of real estate brokers and agents. NAR's goal is to promote the real estate profession, us as realtors, and encourage professional behavior among its members. We are a self-policing agency for the most part, but we also have a strict code of ethics that the members must follow, and all of the activity are managed by brokers as well as state agencies. Realtors are real estate agents who subscribe to NAR by way of fees and credentials. Now, a real estate agent may not always be a realtor, because the realtor designation, well, this is only available by agents who decide to take an oath of ethics and decide to transact their business under these guidelines of best practices. Realtors can include real estate agents, real estate brokers, property managers, appraisers, and many other real estate professionals. In order to become a realtor, an agent has to complete an educational course. They have to take the state exam. They need to become a member of NAR. They'll also take the oath of ethics, and they have to remain in good standing with state and local legislation. So with all of that in the backdrop, you can just imagine what are some of the services that realtors can provide. Obviously, negotiating a price of a home, managing some legal action. Different states offer different services. Preparing and submitting and filing legal documents for the sale of a home, pricing the home, making pre-sale preparation suggestions, marketing your home, even vetting potential buyers. At the end of the day, the goal for all realtors is to help you, as the homeowner, maximize the proceeds from the sale of your home, as well as helping you, buyers, to be able to get into the home that is the dream home for you and your family. As of October 2023, there are over 1.5 million realtors. Number two, how are realtors paid? Well, compensation is always negotiable. Agents only get paid if the home sells, or if they put something in the clause that allows them to get paid otherwise. Listing agents are typically paid from the proceeds of the sale of the home, and that fee that they charge, well, that's completely negotiable. This, by the way, is a critical conversation, and it happens every time before a listing agreement is signed. See, the agent needs to communicate to the seller what their fee is, along with the additional typical costs that would happen before the transaction closes. This happens typically before any of the documents are signed, and more than likely, a seller and a buyer will get informed as to what those fees are multiple times before the closing. For example, there are at least 3 times, at the very minimum, a seller should be reminded of the costs that it takes to sell a home. 1. Before the listing agreement is signed, they usually get a net sheet. Secondly, before an offer is accepted, so they know what based on the terms of the sale are. And finally, before the closing of the sale, they get a final closing cost worksheet that articulates all of the costs for both buyer and seller. In actuality, the buyers and the sellers get updated way more than that, especially when you have the escrow companies involved, but that's a different conversation for a different episode. When it comes to the estimated net sheet, listing agents often provide this as a part of the listing agreement or that conversation. That's usually when it's covered. This allows the seller to get fully aware of what the costs are in order to sell their home and how much they're actually going to net at the close of the sale. Now, the numbers that it takes to get there is part of the experience that the agent has to understand what the market trends are, what the common expectations of buyers are in the marketplace, and what the sellers can expect as a course of the cost of selling their home. Now, this is a reflection of what we call a fluctuating market, because in some markets, buyers were willing to pay cash over appraisal, as well as other fees that sellers typically pay just to be able to get the home they want. That's typically a reflection of limited inventory and multiple buyers, or oftentimes both. Just think about the pandemic that we just experienced. In other markets, sellers will offer incentives to buyers just to get the home sold as soon as possible. Just think back to the Great Recession. That was key. Everything is negotiable, and if you're working with a true professional, well, you will know exactly what the costs are to sell your home and before you sign that listing agreement. Again, agents only get paid if the home sells, and listing agents are typically paid from the proceeds of the sale. That fee is totally negotiable. So is there a standard fee to sell a home? No, there is no standard fee, because again, everything is negotiable. See, different agents will provide different levels of services. Some agents are willing to just discount everything to the bottom of the floor, and hey, you're going to get what you paid for. They might not offer you the full service suite of options, which means if you're going to do a for sale by owner, if you're going to sell your home with a discount brokerage, well, you're likely going to take on more liability, and most likely you're going to get less than what you could potentially get by using professional. Other agents and other brokers, they might offer a full suite of services. That cost might be anywhere between 4 to 7%. There is no actual number. It's just based on what everybody agrees to pay in that conversation. It really shows that we are in an open market, and it is up to the consumer to really interview the realtors based on expertise and experience. Think about this. Over the last decade or so, we've seen the increase of iBuyers services like Open Door, and they charge as much as 10% for convenience, and they don't have to follow the rule of ethics or even some of the laws because they are a different business model. So the question is, what are you willing to pay? The way this current structure is set up, where everything is negotiable, it's really kind of crucial because it's helping many of the transactions take place. It helps many buyers reach the American dream. This is especially true for first-time home buyers. Since there are no standard commissions or offered services to pay for in a typical structure, well, compensations are really varied based on the services that are provided. It really reflects a free market, which means you as the consumer should really take a look at who you're working with and consider what type of services you're looking for. In addition to this, costs are always spelled out to buyers and sellers. Not only is it a part of the listing agreement as to what sellers will pay for, it also articulates how much of the fee should go to find a buyer. Now, this can, again, be completely negotiable, up to the sellers as well as the listing agents to make that decision ahead of time. But consider this: if buyers are told that their agent is being paid by the listing agent at closing and it's fully disclosed, then whose problem is it? Well, it really boils down to the seller to know and understand what that structure is made up of. And this transparency is reiterated throughout the entire process. It's up to the agent also to make sure that the seller is aware of what these services are and what they are getting for in exchange for that compensation. How are real estate brokers paid? Well, realtors and agents, they almost always work for a broker. Different states have different rules, but at the end of the day, all contracts are always signed by the agent in behalf of the broker's name. So if the broker is out there training their agents with the words, "That's our fee," well, then they need to prove that. And again, it's up to the seller and the agent to ensure they are clear as to what those services are offered, because everything is negotiable. Finally, is the NAR and our realtors part of a cartel? Well, let's take a look at what the definition of a cartel really is. A cartel is where two or more businesses agree not to compete with each other. This can take form in many different ways. Sometimes it's price fixing, sometimes it's sharing markets, rigging bids, or restricting the output of goods and services. And this would be in relation to the interests of what's happening in the area. So if this was an actual cartel to price fix, well, then I would argue that it's doing a pretty terrible job at doing it. Because a cartel is really defined as an association of manufacturers, suppliers, with the purpose of maintaining prices at a high level and restricting competition. Think about this. Over 90% of all realtors that sign up end up leaving the business in less than 5 years because, well, get this, everything is negotiable. If there were price fixing, you wouldn't have the freedom to pick not only what the prices are, but you would probably have more people staying in the industry longer because there is truly price fixing available to make money off of it. So in conclusion, the real estate transaction is often the biggest transaction most people will have in their lifetime. There is a reason why I see technology has not eliminated the role of a realtor over the last 20 years. Here are 4 reasons why realtors haven't been affected. Number 1, no two homes are exactly the same. You've got a different set of amenities, improvements, and even conditions. Number 2, clients are not identical. Everyone has a different set of income, credit, assets, even motivations. Number 3, every client's situation is different. Some want to move up, others need to move down. Some are investors or buying second homes. This is where the personal consultation helps really iron out the specifics and lay out a game plan as to how to achieve their goal. And finally, number 4, everything is negotiable. There are just so many variables, it's very difficult for technology to really isolate what the best solutions are for the clients. And really, when you think about it, clients can change their mind along the way. And so being able to calculate all of those possibilities, it's not out of the realm of possibility, but it just is so much easier to deal with people in helping that guide their decision making in that element. So like all services, real estate compensation fully varies on what the services are and what the services are that the seller wants to agree to. It's a free market, but it also fluctuates. Since it is an open market, you have options like an iBuyers service. You have hedge funds that are purchasing enormous amounts of properties. And you also have the wealth that many sellers have in their homes, and they're using that to buy second homes and investment homes. The cost to purchase or even sell a home is nothing like it was in the 90s. In fact, as time has progressed, the cost, the commission, the prices that agents are charging now is actually less than it was 2 decades ago. And the value that you're getting is even more because we are constantly being educated and making adjustments according to different state rules and different practices and experiences. Here at the Five Diamond Group, we have a variety of options for clients to pick from, with each type of service that's broken down by the structure and the level of experience that you want to have. The bottom line is you can sell the house yourself. We call that a for sale by owner. You can hire a discount broker and use their services and take control of the transaction. You can hire a realtor, or you can use an iBuyers services. Both buyers and sellers can use any one of these services as they seem fit and compensate them accordingly. A cartel would require the agreement of all of those industries, and so because of that, I feel that this class action lawsuit will need to be appealed, and it's likely going to carry on for several years until it's finally resolved. So how does this really affect us? Well, it doesn't affect us at this moment until we see specific action that needs to be taken from NAR as a result of the judge. Then we'll deal with it at that time. And it might not happen for a while, but at the end of the day, we will adapt to whatever the current regulations are. And more importantly, we need to wait and see what those instructions are. But think about this. The most likely person who's going to be effective negatively by this change is going to be you as a buyer. If these changes are not appealed and left as is, the buyer is going to need even more money out of pocket to pay for buyer representation. That's in addition to their lending closing costs, down payments, and other fees. It might change into a European model or even an Australian real estate model, and we will no longer be an open market. Well, that's a conversation for another episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Jared Uraine with the Uraine Ordonez 5 Diamond Group here at Vice Realty, and this was episode 35 of the Move It podcast, Realtors and Their Commissions. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like this information, please feel free to share it, like it, subscribe. Give me your remarks. Share your thoughts. I'd love to hear your feedback because I know this is going to generate a lot of heat. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until the next episode, be cool like a butterfly.